So South Africa were completely dominated again on day two of the first test against New Zealand, and we are back here to speak about it once again. And I don't know how this sits with me because after that performance against India, and mind you, it was a very good performance. I'm sitting here and looking at us again with sitting with exactly the same problems as we've have for the couple of seasons. Now, hopefully, Temba Bavuma and Rassi van der Dussen can come to the party. Hopefully, they can put on a decent performance and save South Africa from complete and utter embarrassment. And hopefully, we can see some improvements heading into the second test, regardless of whether we win it or not. Hopefully, we can finish strong because there is definitely issues with our top three. And unfortunately, now that Keegan Peterson's not available to pick, you are sitting with quite a few new guys to international cricket that you are hoping will do the job for you consistently. Now, it is very difficult. It's not easy at all, but it is very embarrassing. So where do we sit? South Africa scored 95 in their first innings. Then New Zealand scored 482, thanks to Nichols' 105 and Blundell's 96. Oliver took 3 for 100. Very, very expensive, but took 3 wickets. And then South Africa's reply, 34 for 3. Complete and utter embarrassment from a South African performance. Mind you, trying to keep things very PG on this channel. But let's go and bring on the panelists onto the show. I'm hoping you guys are ready for this. It's your call-in show as well. You guys have an opportunity to call in and have your say. But before we get started, before we get going, click subscribe, click the notification bell for all future videos. Please smash the like button, comment, like, do all of those things. And also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. The link is on your screen as well as in the description. So without further ado, let's start this review/preview for the second test on day two against South Africa, taking on New Zealand. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine, and this is your review/preview show. I'm your host, Khalid Maiden. I'm here with Aditya. I'm here with Tsepo today, and we're going to be discussing what happened on day two of this two-test series against New Zealand. Okay, so where do we start? Let's start with the bowling. Now, I think that's where we can start. For the first time, we're actually going to be criticizing South Africa's bowling. And I believe that we shouldn't really criticize them too harshly because for a large period of time, we've been relying on them and they've been doing their job. There's been a lot of changes to this bowling attack. It hasn't been necessarily a bowling attack that they've had opportunities to create partnerships over a period of time. It would have been, I guess, a lot easier if they took 3 players or 2 bowlers from the same team and gave them a opportunity for South Africa. But these are currently different bowlers from different provinces all coming together, trying to create magic and win South Africa's series. That's why there was so much emphasis on the batting before the series, saying that it's about time that the batters stand up, that they're not just doing the bare minimum to get us over the line, that they completely start dominating and perform the way we know their talent proves that they can, or their talent suggests that they can. So the bowling, I do feel that the bowlers, if we're going to criticize them, bowled a little too short. A lot of the time, they were punished from the short deliveries or a little bit too full. I think the difference between us and New Zealand, and that's where New Zealand deserves credit, is the consistency bowling on that fourth stump area, in that third, fourth stump area, or three and a half, fourth stump area, swinging the ball in, swinging the ball away, bowling in that perfect length that will trouble the batter and force them to play. They did it consistently through both, you could say, both of their bowling innings. Now, mind you, they haven't really had much of a bowling innings yet, and they already got South Africa 3 down, but they've continued the same amount of consistency that they did in the first innings, and that's discipline. Don't know if it's a lack of tiredness or a lack of tiredness. Sorry, if it's a lack of energy, if it's got to do with tiredness, if it's got to do with quarantine, the strict regulations of quarantine, being in that 10-day quarantine is apparently very difficult. That's what I've been hearing. And going from bubble to bubble, if it's all of those type of things, if there wasn't enough time to rest, I don't know, but didn't look like the top class fielding outfit that we normally have with regards to the ball and with the dropping in the field. The amount of catches that have gone down are just embarrassing. But I would like to get your thoughts. Aticha, I'm sorry, but we are going to be quite somber here on Cricket Fanatics today. That is quite sad the way we've been performing. But let's get your thoughts, then Tsepo, and then Werner.
Oh, well, yes, fairly disappointing day for South Africa, obviously, and understandably so. I think fans have every right to be quite dejected, um, given the highs of the India series, to then come to New Zealand and play the way that they have been. It's tough days, disappointing. Um, I'd I'd refer all of us back to Mark Boucher's press conference, where he said that if you look at the pitch, it does look like a green top, but it's quite hard underneath, and the bounce is fairly true. So somewhere I feel like as a batting unit, you can take that grass too seriously, and as a bowling unit, you can take that grass too seriously as well. Ultimately, it's test match bowling. You hit that sweet spot on the pitch, that good length, uh, time and time again. For the entire day, and then it's a war of attrition. So that's what you got to do. But then I think from a selection point of view, South Africa did miss a trick by not including Keshav Maharaj, in my view. Because if Aiden Markram has the same number of wickets as Kaki Sorabada in an innings, then I think that says something. Not to mention that Rabada's bowled 5 no balls, which Markram hasn't. So I feel like Keshav Maharaj would have made quite a difference on this pitch. Um, so I think South Africa missed a trick there. And look, with batting in the first innings, I said yesterday that from 2 to 7, all the batters faced a minimum of 30 balls. So they at least gave themselves an opportunity to get their eyes in. That didn't happen in the second innings when it seemed like conditions were better for batting. So, yeah, there's not much to say. I just think South Africa's been outplayed in all 3 departments of the game, and
Mm.
I guess there needs to be a conversation about whether bubble life is taking a toll on them, whether quarantine was too hard, and as Boucher repeatedly said, the energy was well below par. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what he means by that, but um, yeah, it's
But
certainly a conversation for them to have.
but Tsepo, like, we must think that it's the approaching batting that's different. I mean, when New Zealand came out to bat, they never gave our bowlers the chance to even settle. They didn't come out with a defensive game plan of just blocking out and getting bat to ball and just blocking every single delivery. They actually came out with quite an attacking approach against South Africa. Now, do you feel that that's maybe where the difference between the two sides with the bat?
Yeah, I think it's more than just an approach. You mentioned it when with your lamenting intro that with the bowling it was sometimes too short then it was too full. Neil Wagner was just slapping bowlers all over the show, sometimes short and wide, sometimes full half volleys. And the thing is, we just were getting thrashed in all the ways that you can get thrashed. And we're not even fighting it. Like we're not even like, oh, Kagiso Rabada came in with that one good spell. Like there's nothing that we're like, there's no silver lining in this performance. The batting, trash. The bowling, trash. The fielding, trash. Oh man, it's just I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I don't know. And it's like I feel like you could see it in the field. The guys aren't there. The no balls, they're getting out of hand. But to be fair, these no balls, these problems, they've been there for a while, but now there's nothing to sort of like bring that back. And it feels like Dean Algar's not able to arrest any of the things going on here. And it's really concerning to watch us just continually capitulate in this manner in this test match. And I think in our heads, we've already lost this game. It looks like it. The 3 wickets that we lost. Look, and also, New Zealand are just playing some really good test cricket. They're bowling in the second innings. It was very difficult to play. Tim Southee's deliveries that just kept nipping in. It showed that there was movement on the pitch. Even our bowlers were getting a bit of movement with like an old ball. Over like number 80, there was still movement. So all the assistance is there, but it feels like nothing is clicking. And it feels like there's a lack of cohesion rather. And I think the more I think about it, the bowling attack, once that sort of just mixed up with Glenton Steerman, Marco Jansen, and Duan Olivier, faces that look the talented players, and they've been in and amongst the squad. Well, Glenton Steerman was supposed to be in the squad. Marco Jansen, relatively new in the squad, and Duan Olivier, he's been out of the squad with his Colpack deal. So it's only been really Kagiso Rabada who's been part of the bowling attack for a while. And I feel like you can see that no bowling partnerships. And with that being our strength, I feel like we can't turn to that anymore. And everything is just gone to the toilet because they're like, yo, guys, if our bowling can't save us, nothing can. So, yeah. Hey, I don't even know if that answered the question. I just needed to release.
No, that was good enough. Werner, what I'm going to ask you is that you can add to obviously what Seppo said, but I'm sitting here after every series, I'm sitting and saying, oh, South Africa have a problem against this. They need to sort it out. Like, for example, we go to India. I'm like, oh, it's the spinning tracks. We have a problem against spin. We need to sort that out. We need to learn how to maybe use our feet and play the ball, etc. And not let the ball bounce too much, or maybe play it late, or whatever the case may be. We're always finding a reason for how we can rectify it when we go to India. We come to South Africa. We go to West Indies, still having issues, and let's go to Pakistan, still having issues. And then it's like, you see, we're getting better against spin. You see, we're improving that part of it. Now, South Africa's strength is playing against, seam. And then swing bowlers come down to South Africa, and that's where we feel comfortable, and they start taking wickets like it's nothing, or causing issues like it's absolutely nothing, with relative ease. And then we're sitting here and saying, oh, we might have a problem with swing bowling now as well. So I think, generally speaking, doesn't that just mean we have a problem with batting?
We definitely do have a problem with batting. And I think it was the cracks were papered over a bit in the last series by Algar and KP, who and Bavuma as well to a certain degree, saving us in quite a few matches. KP especially, who stepped up for us throughout that series, and it sort of papered over the fact that Markram is not performing, or that Rassi was performing here and there, but not in the other innings. Verena not yet settled as a player or as a batter. Now we brought in the extra batter, which I personally felt it was the right call. I'd still back it. I'd still say I wouldn't have played Maharaj. I differ a bit from Aditya on that one. I don't think Markram got any spin, and I do think the only reason he got those 2 wickets because they were looking to be ultra aggressive, and it was the 2 bowlers, right, that he dismissed. He dismissed Jameson and he dismissed Southey, I think. There at the back end. So I'm not sure. Maharaj could have done a better holding job probably than our bowlers. I think Algar would have probably turned to him to do a bit of holding job that could have helped, but that's only necessary because we bowled so poorly. And so I don't think the selection was wrong. I think that our bowling was just very poor. Yes, thanks Aditya for reminding me. It was Colin de Granham who threw his wicket away that first one. I just think our bowlers were very poor, not consistent in areas. They'll get they'll bowl 2 good deliveries, then there'll be one down the leg side, then there'll be one short and wide. We went through that second session after lunch without bowling a single maiden. And we're talking about a test match here, not a single maiden between lunch and tea time. And that is just very poor. And then we come out to bat, and the next moment we're 4 for 3. Chepo and I are commentating, and it's raining wickets. We're just holding our heads in our hands. Don't know which way to look. Don't know what to say anymore because it's just so poor. But at the same time, New Zealand have been by far the better team. They've just been putting pressure on us constantly with their bowling. They've taken all their catches. That is a major point. If we held on to our catches, this could have been a different scenario. New Zealand would have probably still been on top, but it wouldn't have been as bad as it is now. I mean, we dropped Nichols on 5. He went on to get 100. We dropped Wagner. He went on to get a 50. A bunch of those sort of situations. It really is astounding how many catches we've dropped. Then there comes one over. We drop another 2 catches. Willie drops it. Rassi drops it. Then Arvia barely hangs on to the 3rd opportunity. So I'm not sure what's going on there. You could really see that just really dented the confidence of the bowlers because they feel, what's the point of running in and giving their best if the moment they finally get an edge, it's just going to be put down. The bowlers, you get so much confidence if a good catch is taken and you run in with some extra oomph, extra energy. So I think the whole performance has been lackluster. It has lacked energy in that sense that it just has been lackluster. I do think that the 10-day quarantine is very hard, and I think it is a big factor as well as not having any practice matches going into it.
Yeah,
I think
practice generally.
Yeah, general practice as well. We only had like a couple of days to try and adapt. So it has been really tough. It's definitely by far not the ideal preparation. Never mind for a team that are perennial slow starters in series. So I think the combination of all of that makes this look a lot worse than I think we are as a team. I think we have a lot to fix in our batting, but I don't think we are as poor as we have showed in this game. And I do believe we are still good enough to come back in that second test match and still win it. I am still silently optimistic about our abilities and ability to come back stronger. And I do believe, even though we have been absolutely thrashed in this game, I think just the pride from the players themselves to step up and to take some responsibility and to show that we're still playing for our country here and we're not going there to just lose 2-0 and not give a fight. I don't see that happening, so I see us coming back stronger in the next game, even though this game is probably lost.
I thought you were going to use another F word instead of fight there. Look at Abai. What I want to add here is because I've been very close to using other F words on the show a couple of times. I've been keeping true to the YouTube guidelines, guys. Look here. So Abai, for me, it gives me training day vibes or training game vibes because South Africa takes those catches. They bowl with more consistency. We actually bat and not defend. We would be sitting in a different situation. Now, it looks like we are playing a test match where the pressure is only coming from one end. There's absolutely no pressure on New Zealand whatsoever. We didn't test them in any way possible. I think the closest we got is by getting them 8-9 wickets down. But then we just took that pressure off us by allowing their tail ender to score 50. Now, this is a problem that we've always also had in the past. I've asked for a little bit more clinical ruthlessness at the tail end when we are sitting with the tail of oppositions, because we do tend to struggle with those last 2 or 3 wickets. We saw it against India too. We struggle to take those last couple of wickets against every team we play. I think most teams will have a record 11 wicket or 10 wicket or 9 wicket or 8 wicket partnerships against South Africa, because if I have to take a guess on just observation, but I'm not getting a very good energy from this team currently.
You know what? I watched some of the bowling yesterday, and KG, Stearman, Olivier, Janssen, all of these guys, they weren't bowling at their top speeds that they're known for. I mean, it was a lot of low to mid 130s, and that was largely unthreatening. I'd like to think that the South African bowlers didn't quite have a clear-cut plan, and they were kind of guessing what to do next and next. And Aiden Markham's 2 wickets were a result of a desperate bowling change, because nothing seemed to be going right whenever the Pacers were bowling, and he managed to invite a couple of poorly timed big shots. But then again, I think, this game is, for all intents and purposes, lost. But this should serve as a good reminder. It's time to hit the ground running right from the word go. And this isn't a 3-test series, so there's only one game to bounce back, and the best result we can get from this is a series tie.
Mm-hmm. This is a question to the entire panel. Anybody can answer. Can we be critical of Dean Elgar's leadership at all? Now, hold on before we get too hectic here, but or you take me out of context completely. But I'm talking about specifically him. There was a small sign of him coming in to bat and allowing Cyril Earvier to face the new ball instead of him taking it. The first delivery of the game, of course. That's a small one, but also the instructions to his bowlers to stop bowling so short or bowling so full all the time. I think that's also captaincy on knowing who to bring in and who to take off and when to do so. Are we being overly harsh to even ask the question whether there's a leadership query?
It's a valid concern. I mean, any captain's prone to make mistakes from time to time, but I think with Dean Elgar, we saw much better captaincy when the Proteas played India at home. But I feel there was lots of confusion. He just didn't have, like I mentioned earlier, a clear-cut set of plans. Especially when you're bowling to tailenders, by default you want to go full and straight. Even though they may hit you for a couple of boundaries, you can't possibly go wrong there. You could trap them LBW or get them out bowled, right? But then again, I want to touch up on one other talking point, because after seeing how the batting has gone, some fans have called for like an overhaul and whatnot. But bear in mind that this team is fresh off of a victory against India, and no desperate measures should be taken.
Yeah, the overhaul is a bit overkill, guys. Like, honestly, these are the best players in the country. Like, you go bat and see how easy it is. But in terms of Dean Elgar's captaincy, that's a really good question, and I think for me, it's a very difficult match to captain. You don't have the players that you normally rely on to bring you the results. I mentioned it earlier with the bowling attack, where 3 out of the 4 bowlers that he went in with today aren't really blooded in Test cricket properly. Marco Jansen literally debuted in the last series. Glenton Steedman's debut and Duan Olivier is coming back from a Kolpak deal. So he wasn't able to turn to Lungi Ngidi. He wasn't able to build a partnership with Keegan Peterson, because Sadal Advia is at the top. Even Kyle Verreynne as a keeper, he's not able to draw on any experience there. So I think, because now I'm a little bit calm now. I think I'm starting to think a lot more straight now. And we shouldn't forget that we're a very young team. A very, very young team. Zubair Hamza is into the team now, and he sort of had a start in that Pakistan series, and we haven't heard from him since. So we're still trying to figure out what's going on, and I don't want us to fall into the trap of Manchester United, where uh, you, you you sort of get hyped at the beginning of the season when something good happens, and then your expectations go way high, and then you think your team can beat any team, but then when you play against the champions, you realize you still have a lot of work to do. So we should put our team into perspective here. Um, but this is a very, very poor performance. We need to clean up, guys. This is the no balls need to stop. Actually, that's something that needs to stop, guys. But yes, yeah, I'm done.
No balls and catches. Both of those.
And the
need...
catches, guys. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just on that point of Algar not facing the first ball, I don't think that is a major deal. That's quite a general thing between openers, where one takes the first ball in the one innings and then they swap around in the next innings, because Algar did take the first ball, I believe, in the first innings, and then they swapped around in the second innings. So I don't think that is a captaincy thing or something that Arve would have had any problem with. It's something you decide early on. One will take the first innings, one will take the second innings, the first over. So I don't think that is a captaincy issue.
I just want to read stats out quickly. Now, Chip, I know said you needed to go. Or do you want to say bye now, or do you have some time with us?
I want to hear that stats.
Okay.
Now you've interested me.
I know exactly how to keep you here. Okay, so when I look at the way South Africa has been batting, the stats of the batters since Park Boucher took over in December 2019, it was, I think, against England. In 14 matches, the highest run scorer is Dean Algar with 939 runs, but he averages 127. He averages 39.12. His highest score is 127. In that period, he's only had 100 and 650s. De Kock is the next best batter over there with 41, an average
He's
of 41.
gone.
But he's gone.
He's gone.
Then we've got Rassie van der Dussen, 14 matches as well, the same as Dean Algar, but he averages 33. Temba Bavuma, who we've been asking or some people have been asking to get out of the team, has the highest average out of everybody on this list with 48 in 9 matches. In 9 matches, yes, 450s, but average is 48 with 535 runs scored. Then we've got Aiden Markram in this period, who's played 11 matches, and he averages 27, very poor. Then Faf du Plessis is on this list too, with 8 matches and averages 29. So then we've got Keegan with 5 matches that averages 35, and then it's bowlers. So when you look at the way South Africa has been batting for the last 2 years, we can look at that tally and just be like, that's not good at all. Another thing that I want to throw in here is, it's a very interesting point, because I was talking to a buddy of mine about this, and we were going back and forth. And I was contemplating at the beginning, whether Sarel should play, whether he should not play, whether Rickerton should play, whether he should not. And, we have these debates all the time. I mean, on this channel, we've been having it. There are a couple of batters that have been playing for quite some time in domestic cricket. Now, one of those players was Sarel Erwee, of course. And when you look at Sarel Erwee's stats in 4-day cricket, and they showed the first-class stats on TV today, he only averages 38. And the problem as well is not only just the average, it's the amount of hundreds scored. Now, Aditya sent me a little tweet from Herschel Gibbs today, and it's very worthy talking about it, because I don't think, okay, yes, it's a bit unfair to signal out Sarel alone, but when you look at majority of the guys that are next in line, this is what Herschel Gibbs had to say. People overlook our batters' first-class stats. Not nearly enough hundreds from them. Can't expect them to score at international level 100. Erwee has only 10 in almost 100 games. Now, that's something to discuss, because if you can't even score hundreds at domestic level, how do you expect to score hundreds at international level?
Yeah, I think the learning curve between first class cricket and Test cricket, there's definitely a gulf in quality, because facing domestic bowlers versus well proven international bowlers, it's a steep step up. Um, I know this is kind of unrelated, but I saw a tweet from Chris Chiwanza. He said that during the ongoing CSA T20 challenge, there have been 40 drop catches, and bear in mind that this competition, this event, has most, if not all, of the best domestic players from the franchise setup. And considering this is the replacement for the Mzansi Super League, this really isn't a good sign for domestic cricket.
There is a misunderstanding about that replacement thing about the Mzansi Super League. This tournament, there's always going to be two tournaments when it comes to T20 cricket in domestic cricket. You've got your CSI T20 challenge, and then you've got your CSI T20 knockout, which is Division 1 and Division 2 teams both play each other. So that's the one where they blend everybody. This is the South African. This was basically the Ram Slam, and then the Mzansi is supposed to be as well on top of it as a T20 domestic competition as well, or a franchise competition. So that's how it's supposed to work. This is, though, replacing it within the calendar years, where the MSL was supposed to be played around in the period where the South Africa was supposed to have the MSL. We were supposed to have it in a certain area, and they've chosen to have this one instead of it. I think that is how it works. I might be wrong, but the last time I remember, we're going to have two T20 competitions and then Mzansi Super League's an extra.
I can double check.
But it doesn't really matter, because you're right, because it still is the best domestic cricketers that we have available to us this tournament. If these drop catches were happening in the knockout, which we had also a lot of drop catches, by the way.
There were over 60 in that tournament as well.
Yeah, exactly. But if this was the knockout, it's a little bit forgiving, a tiny little bit forgiving, but not that amount. But the bad fielding, etc., maybe you can say because of the standards are different, but there's no excuse for this. This is terrible.
Pretty much, yeah.
And is it coincidence that our national team is also fielding poorly, or is it just that the standards of fielding in South Africa currently are just poor?
Mm-hmm. Just to round it off, the best way I can put it is making mistakes is not abnormal. I mean, everyone's prone to make errors every once in a while, but if you make the same errors consistently, it goes to show that there hasn't really been any progress made. If we look at the first innings, New Zealand's first innings, when they finished at around 119 for 3 at the end of day one, I think there were 4, maybe 5 catching opportunities that went to the slip cordon, and 0. None of them were taken. I mean, it does raise a big concern, but I want to end on a more positive note. I know that the Proteas are 34 for 3 right now. I'm just hoping that the remaining batters can take this opportunity, get some. I hate to say this, but get some batting practice in, because this is really the only opportunity before the second test where it's pretty much for all the marbles. So I'm going to sign off with that. Take care, guys.
See you. Anybody want to add? Aditya, you've been quiet.
One thing that's been on my mind is that if you look at the form of the batting unit, at best, 2 out of 7 players are in some sort of form, right? Dean Elgar played 1 knock in the India series, that was good. But if you look at the rest of, he's played 8 innings, including the India series, and apart from the 1 knock, there hasn't been like a lot of substantial contribution. I stand to be corrected though. Werner can correct me if I'm wrong. And then Temba Bavuma, of course, is the other inform batter. So you look at 2 of 7 players who are in form, and then there's obviously talk of the pecking order, as to who should come in if a player gets injured. And Dean was quite firm that should be Sarah Irving. Given the context, given the situation that the Proteas are in, I felt like that was a perfect situation to include Ryan Rickelton in the team, because it's not very often that you're going to get a guy who's averaging 118 in your 4-day competition, and who's high on confidence when the rest of the batting unit is not. And that's something that probably needs a little bit of reflection, because you can't always be adhering to a pecking order that rigidly. Certainly when you know that a lot of your batting group is underperforming. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, it still boggles my mind a bit that Ryan is not playing in this match. To be frank, we're talking about Arve having made 10 first class centuries in his 100 games or over his career, and Rickelton has made 3 in the past couple of months. So to not bring him in when you're going to play the extra batter, and when Boucher says in the post-match presentation, no, we're looking at him as a batter as well, not only as a backup keeper. Yeah, I don't know, and you can't tell me no.
That's
It
also
is
right.
because Hamza has more experience, because Hamza doesn't have a lot more experience, and what good is experience without real form? Or over the past few seasons, averaging 35, 36. Rickelton's been averaging 50, 60. I think
but-
that trumps experience.
Yeah, well, Rickelton only really played 4-day cricket this season. Like, to be fair, like he hasn't really been playing 4-day cricket for a long time. So we are taking last 2 season stats of Hamza and comparing it to Rickelton's like one good season or only season that he's played in. We don't know if the next season is going to be poor.
But
like
hasn't Rickelton also scored like 10 first class centuries already? I think he's scored like 10 first class centuries and 10 half centuries. He has a great conversion rate.
I'm thinking now. I'm talking about now, of course. Not when I talk about first class, I'm talking about 4-day cricket, not 3-day cricket.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
So we need to take that into consideration as well. That's why I've called for selectors to not only be observant of the stats and looking how players performed, but the manner in which they did. That's why it's so important to have a selector at the venue, because you can, for example, see a player score a massive half century, but it didn't help his team get over the line. Then is that half century really as valuable in a chase, for example? Like, how do you need to look at it in perspective? Like, for example, Tristan Stubbs, he might not, the Warriors might not have won the game because of poor bowling, but the manner in which he approached it in pressure situations highlights him as a good player, despite this team not winning. If you understand what I mean, are we going to now suddenly, because Terence de Bruin scored a 70 or 60 and was as a result responsible for his team getting over the line, are we going to take him as a player to the World Cup, for example? Do you understand what I mean? So, like, you need to look at situations, you need to look at circumstances, and that's why I say when we look at stats, it's very dangerous when we start when we look at stats. And I'm not talking about you, Werner, because you don't do this, but if I look at Sadal Earvier and I take away, for example, just this until this season, right? Because the program that I use, I don't know if they are now adding, because the franchise names have changed. So they used to split up the Gauteng and they used to split up Gauteng and the Dolphins, for example. So Gauteng and the Lions, sorry, or Dolphins and KwaZulu Natal. So if you play 3-day cricket in semi-pro cricket, it didn't count as your stats for your Dolphins era, because they take obviously 4-day, 3-day together and they plunk it all together, and SAA all under one to form your first class stats. So when you look at Sadal Earvier's Dolphins numbers, which is 40 matches for the Dolphins, right? He scored at an average of 38, and he only has 815 50s to his name. So that's in 4-day cricket. And then if you split it, if you even look at his semi-pro numbers, like his England numbers when he played for England, he played 44 matches for England and his average is 37 and only has 118 50s. So he clearly has a conversion rate if you're looking at his stats and you break it up. So like even in 3-day cricket as well as in 4-day cricket, it looks like his conversion rate is a bit wonky. Whereas if you look at a guy like Ryan Rickleton, I'm just going to check what he's done. I can't remember his stats offhand. But it's good to actually look at the stats like this and break it up into sections, because it tells a lot. It paints a story of a player, Because, for example, I know that with Zubair Hamza, or even Kyle Verreynne, their 4-day stats are extremely good compared to their 3-day stats. The 3-day stats is actually pulling their numbers down, which is funny enough. So when you look at these things, we need to look at it a little bit more in detail. So I've got Ryan Rickleton in front of me. Let me just get the per team. Let me just for each team. So if you look at Ryan Rickleton, for example, for Gauteng itself, his average is 22, with an average of 50, with 700s and 450s. Now I don't know how many of them include the games that he's playing now. Quick question. Ryan Rickleton, he didn't score a double century this season, did he?
He made a double century against Zimbabwe A, I think.
202 not out.
202 not out. You see now they are, so they are like combining. So the stats are all wackier. But for example, for the Lions, 4-day cricket, he's played 9 matches, 100 and 450s. Now this is obviously not included. That's how I know it's not including this year's stats. Do you understand what I mean? Because they've now split it. Now we're back to being Gauteng again. So I don't know if I just added it to the rest now again.
Yeah, I think my main thing is Rickleton was already part of the squad. He was part of the squad for a couple of series now. He is the guy that's next in line. If Boucher is telling me he's not just seen as the backup keeper, he's seen as a backup batter as well, then it doesn't make sense to me for Hamza to come in as a replacement player for a guy who got COVID, and then hop the line in front of Rickleton, who has been in form, into the squad. I think that's my main point.
Yeah, and I agree with that point, because I had an issue with that too. But I think we as the selectors need to rethink of the way they select players, and when they select players, because there are certain times when you must fast track players into teams, and there's other times where we can see a player needs to play a little longer in domestic cricket and score some runs. Now, there was an excellent segment from Ashwell Prince and Vernie Philander on the show this morning, on Supersport this morning, where they spoke about that. You can sometimes see when a player needs a little longer time. And Vernon said himself, he said he felt that he maybe needed an extra time, in domestic cricket, before he felt he was ready for Test cricket, even though people thought that he should be in the team a lot earlier. Some people's development needs a little longer, to mature and to become those players. Aditya, you wanted to say something, and then I'm going to get the first caller on the show?
Yeah, actually, you said that. You said that what if Rickleton is not in the same form next year, right? He's been in great form this year. What if he's not in great form next year? And that's exactly what I was going to say, because Rickleton was included in this extended squad as well as the India series on the back of performances that he's put in on the domestic circuit. So he's in great form now, and he's a part of that squad. So he's obviously next in line and somewhere on that pecking order. We don't know
Can I
where,
add
but
to
he's
that
somewhere
quickly?
on that pecking order.
And
Yeah.
then can I understand? So yes, Rickleton has been picked on his current form, not on his career. Do you understand? It's not. He's been picked purely on current form in the squad as a backup keeper. It's not based on career. I think if it were they taken it as career and over a period of time, maybe Grant Rulison would have picked him if Grant wasn't injured as a wicketkeeper batter as well. So that could also be. So if you look at Ryan Rickleton, because Ryan Rickleton hasn't played a lot of 4-day cricket for the Lions and for Gauteng. He's played a lot of white ball cricket. Actually, in fact, I remember 2 seasons ago when people were talking about him as the next white ball cricketer. I thought that's where he should be. I've gotten his call up before, actually 4-day, but his 4-day game has improved a lot over the last 2 seasons. But continue, Aditya, you're right.
So the thing is that you've picked him on current form, and you look at the context of this team, where there aren't a lot of players in form. So you have to pick the guy who's high on confidence, because what's going to happen is that next year, Rickleton is still in the extended squad, right? He's not going to be booted out of there anywhere soon. He's going to be there, right? And assuming he's not made the same volume of runs that he has this year, and he's then selected to play and he doesn't do well, going to be like, well, you know what, Ryan Rickleton, he hasn't been high on confidence in recent times, but he was part of the pecking order, so we had to pick him. So that's where I feel like South Africa need to strike when the iron is hot. You can't always adhere to the strict rules of having a pecking order. And what you've done and this is, I don't disagree with Cyril Hervé's inclusion in the squad, but the way that has been done is that you now have two batters who are playing out of position. You have Aiden Markram, who's playing at 3, and he's already been low on confidence, and you have Kyle Verreynne, who is yet to be settled at the number 6 position, is now playing at number 7. Now we may say that there's not a lot of difference between the two, but both players are trying to get into some sort of form, and it's not healthy for them to be shuffling all the time.
You know what also baffles me a lot here, Werner, is the fact that that exact point that Aditya made now, where he said that you have now Aiden Markram batting out of position. If the aim was to protect Aiden or to drop him down the order because of his form and let him find form later on, there is no reason for you to bring him at 3 when you've just lost a wicket. How's that going to help him? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. And if Zubair Hamza is the backup for Keegan Peterson as number 3, why is he not batting at 3? So these things are confusing me, because they select the players, but then they play them out of position, and then but what would they have done if we weren't in a TIS?
Yeah, I don't agree with the order either. I don't think Markram was moved down to 3 because of his lack of confidence. I think it was more a fact that they wanted to play Arve as opener. They wanted him to come in his preferred position. But I think if you're doing that, then wouldn't it be better to then just either drop Markram totally from the team because he has been so out of form, or then play him at 6 and play Hamza at 3 where he's used to playing? So the whole thinking process so far has been a bit confusing for me. I'm not sure what they are thinking, and you can see Markram is out of it. I personally wouldn't even play him in the second test. I would then, if they want to go this route, then bring Rickleton in for Markram, and then play Hamza at 3 and bring Rickleton in at 6 or 7 or whatever it may be. But that then is another new guy. But what are you going to do? Are you going to stick with a guy you can see is really struggling? Or are you going to give a chance to a guy with some confidence, even if it does mean another debutant? So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
But there's no way they play him at, if he was in form, there's no way they play him at 3 to put Cyril as opener. So only because he's off form, that's why they moved him down. That can only be the only reason. But then they still bring him in a situation that's going to get his confidence down if he's been struggling with. I mean, so it's weird to me. But I'm just going to get Aswani on the show quickly. Aswani, have your say, brother. It's a nice segment to end the show with, so we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Hello to everyone.
How's it?
Yeah, I think it's a very disappointed day for Proteas. So far what I saw in the match, I think they are low in the energy, and their bowlers don't put the ball at the right areas, especially Johnson and Bartman. If you compared both the teams, I think New Zealand bowlers are more consistent as compared to South African bowlers, which is showing in the scorecard as well. I will talk about Matt Henry especially. I think if you look at Matt Henry's past 2-3 years record, I think Matt Henry plays most of his cricket in England. I think he's played a lot of county cricket for Kent, and maybe he's one of the highest wicket takers in the county cricket as well. So you see the what type of length he's bowling in New Zealand. Obviously, it is also his homeland, but I think lot more effect of on his bowling is due to the county cricket, uh, and also his consistency. Uh, I think I will credit to give him at in that aspect as well. Coming to South African batters, I think South Africa need to find a proper opener. I think which is you can say that opening in today's era it is very difficult now. You have two three openers which I think is scoring consistently in Test cricket. That is Dean Elgar, Demet Krenatre. India is also struggling in that department. Australia is too. I think South Africa need to find the Dean Elgar sport. I think they have to saw in domestic cricket which is the ready player, which is the ready go opener which they can try out. They tried Cyril Irving. I think they should go with Peter Milan again. Reason is that I think Peter Milan, first of all, is experienced guy. Plus, he also play county cricket, though he's not successful at county. But I think he has that experience of playing the moving ball, which is not successful. I think he's playing in the same county where I think Hanuma Behar is also playing at. So I think South Africa need to sort that aspect as well. And coming to Adam Markram, I think if I look at Adam's game, I think he's better at middle order. You can push him to 4 or 5 and push Zubair Hamza to number 3. Zubair Hamza has that talent to fill Hashim Amla's shoes. I uh, I saw Hamza closely in India as well. He looks me a very fine player. In future, Zubair Hamza and Keegan Peterson can be your new number 3 and number 4 if South Africa can give them long chances, because these players looks me the most technically correct batters in South African cricket.
Thank you,
Uh,
Ashwani, for coming on the show.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
for your points. I'll chat to you again soon. Anybody want to jump in there? I just want to see something quickly, because Aiden Markram also played some cricket for Durham and Hampshire and Northern and Hampshire, sorry,
Yeah, I'm sure.
and
He
he also
dominated
played
that
against
that
the
50
moving ball.
that London One Day Cup or whatever it was called at that stage, that 50 over tournament right before
Yeah,
that World Cup, and we all expected, okay, he's going to dominate the World Cup as well, and then he didn't.
yeah, and they didn't play him at the one place where he was playing at the Rose Bowl, which is weird for
Yeah.
me from a South African selection perspective, where he scored majority of his runs. But yeah, so like, yeah, there were some good points that Ashwani made. I do think that at this point, if you can't play Aiden Markram as a test opener at the moment, and if they don't want to play him as an opener and they don't see him as an opener and they're not making a strong statement by saying we want him to be number 4, they should drop him. I mean, his performances haven't been good at all. When it comes to his average, I hate saying it. That actually hurts me talking about it, to be fair. But I'm going to tell you anyway, because it's my job. But Markram averages 9.7 in his last 10 innings. So that's very poor.
Look,
I think Rafi Sorabada averages that.
I understand the frustration with Aiden Markram, and he knows that he hasn't been performing as well.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of things that need to be taken into consideration. If you do want to drop Aiden Markram, the 95 all out should not be a determining factor there, because
Yeah.
if a team has been 95 all out and has then conceded 482 runs, then that's basically 11 players who've had an off test match. Aiden Markram alone is not responsible for that.
Yeah. True.
So if the team had scored, say, 300 runs and Aiden Markram had scored 5 of 20, then there is an argument there. But if a team has scored 95 runs, then you can't blame Aiden Markram for that. Like I think the highest score in that innings was 25. So I think that's perhaps that's pushing it a bit. And secondly, if we're talking about, like Mark Barger said, that it's not just the opening partnership; it's the entire top order that's a concern. But if we talk specifically about the opening partnership, we can't just focus on it in Markram. We have to
No,
talk
it's
about
Dean
Dean
too.
Elgar as well.
Like I was shocked when
Because
I looked at Dean's stats. Like for the last 14, I didn't realize it was below 40. Like I was
Yeah.
pretty shocked.
And look, Dean Elgar is the captain, and sure, but look, like I said, in the last 8 innings, he's performed in one, and sure that one was a match-winning innings, but it's 7 out of 8 innings where he hasn't really put in a substantial performance. So if there's pressure on Aiden Markram, there should be a little bit of pressure on Dean Elgar as well.
Yeah, Dean has been. That's kind of been the case in his career, right? He'll score one big, maybe match-defining innings in a series, and then he'll go missing. And then the next series comes around, and then he struggles, and then he scores one good game. With the rest, I think what's the word, emphasizes it or makes it stand out is usually in that case he's the only one that's scoring in that particular innings, right? So he'll score 100 while the rest of the lineup are struggling to make a 30, for example. So then we look at it. Okay, yeah, Algar has been doing well for us. He's the banker. He's the one we look to, and we make him captain because he's the permanent fixture in the team. But then he goes missing for the rest of the series, where the others might here and there contribute. He'll string a couple of low scores together, because we all know opening is difficult, especially in South Africa, in New Zealand. It's a tough job. The ball's moving around. It's not easy. But when you look at how Algar approaches this, he's very loose outside the off stump at the beginning of his innings, like especially loose for an opener. Most openers will look to leave 80% of the deliveries every chance they get, even if it's on a, like this pitch has true bounce, right? So the moment you see it's back of a length, you can probably leave it because it'll go over the stumps, even if it's in a straight line. But you'll see Algar still poking outside the off stump. That's just a thing until he gets himself in. Then usually, that's on the flip side is when Algar gets himself in, it's very hard to get him out. It's just that there's too many innings where he doesn't get to that stage where he gets himself in. So the opening, I don't think there's a quick solve for it. And I also don't think we can judge Erwin on one test match, especially where all the batters have failed. So
yeah, I talk about Erwin not now. It's too late now to discuss him, in my opinion. You've already put him in the squad. So he's already been sitting around bubble to bubble. The unfairness has already happened. My point is, like, before that, when he was selected, when they looked at the stats and they looked at the top stats, how did they look at it? Because my point here is, if you look at the stats and you see the averages, when they put Sarel Eva's averages on the team on the TV today, I don't think a lot of people thought that he's averaged 38 in first class cricket, and that's not because his first class, his 3-day scores are putting him down necessarily. He was similar in both. Like I said, when we looked at in the back end to see, like I watched that step up. Like I saw Kyle Verreynne did okay in semi-pro cricket, but his first class stats are much better. Zubair Hamza started off decently, but he did okay in 3-day cricket, and then his first class stickers were much better than that until the last 2 seasons where he's been really struggling. But leading up to that test series, of course. But I'm looking at those type of stuff, and I'm looking at current form. So we need to decide, is it current form that we're picking on? Because it looked like that. The fact that they picked Sarel was because currently in the Dolphins team this season, he scored that massive 100 and odd with Keegan Peterson. And then both of them got selected in the teams, in the squads going into this World Cup. It was, not the World Cup, going into the series that came. So selectors need to make us understand on the reasons why they selected someone. I would like to know. And if it is because of current form, tell us it's because of current form. And if that's going to be a criteria when you're picking someone. If you're going to tell me that you are picking players based on their experience in domestic cricket and their form in domestic cricket over the last 5-6 seasons, then tell me that they're doing that and then pick accordingly. But then don't do things like we've done it now, where you tell me where you select Ryan Rickleton, they're causing the whole stir within the community and the fan bases. Obviously, because there's been no proper explanation on the reasons why he hasn't been selected in this particular starting 11. Aditya, he must have been asked that in the press conference. How did he answer that?
He was asked whether Ryan Rickleton was primarily a reserve wicketkeeper, to which Boucher said that no, he's not. He is being considered as a batter as well, but they decided to go with Zubair Hamza anyway. That's it. That's all that was discussed.
Yeah, it seemed like he wanted to avoid that question a bit, to be honest. There probably is other reasons why Ryan wasn't picked, but they don't really want to talk about it in front of the media. So, and we don't like to bring it up too much, but it just feels like one of those situations right now, because based on him being with the squad and being in form, and they're picking on form clearly.
If that's what he said, then it must be transformation. Let me say it.
Yeah, but it was referred to in an article in ESPN Cricket Info today as well, that in the article it states that it is understood that it was because of transformation reasons, that because it states something like Ryan Rickleton was the favorite to come into this test match, but it is understood that because of transformation reasons they decided to go with Hamza ahead of Rickleton. That's what the article states.
Irritates me too. That irritates me too, because there's no transparency with Boucher and the selectors again when it comes to transformation and what their policies are when it comes to transformation. Are they going to be sticking to it? Are they going to be trying to meet the requirements every single game? Are they doing it over a season? How far behind are they with the transformation? None of this has been explained to us, which I believe that we should get that explanation, because otherwise we end up turning on players for reasons that are not their fault. So if Zubair Hamza was picked on transformation reasons, there's no reason why we should be going and having a go at Zubair Hamza.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. It's not his fault at all, and he probably deserves to be around the squad. And it's not his fault that he has been picked.
He was also a non-traveling reserve. He was a non-traveling reserve,
and
Zubair Hamza. So if someone was going to get injured or something was going to happen to any of the top batters, he would have come into the squad. Yes. That was the case.
And we know Hamza has a lot of class, and we can see the way he approached that first innings. He looked good until he played a loose shot. So you could see he probably he will eventually be good enough to perform well at this level. He just needs some time. But the whole process of picking him ahead of Ryan Rickleton that is the main problem. It's not that I don't think Hamza isn't good enough. It's just that if Ryan is the guy who's been in the squad, then he's the one that comes in if a guy misses out.
But it's also unfair on a player of color as well, I feel. Because he would have thought he wasn't going to... Like, I don't mean... I can't be saying this. But anyway, so I saw Zubair Hamza before the series, obviously play for VP Blitz. I don't think he had any thought in his head that he was going to be playing selected in the series. So I know there were 3 non-traveling reserves. I think his focus was already on T20 cricket and the T20 challenge. I think that must have been his focus. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're on a plane, and then you're starting. Like, it's insane. If the players that knew they were going to play struggled at the quarantine and went through all of that, imagine this boy as well. So it's also unfair on Zubair, also unfair on Ryan Rickleton. This the whole non-transparency is just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, and it's unfair in general on everybody in the situation. So it's just easier not to keep things quiet from us. I mean,
there's one more thing I want to add on. They also referenced Hamza's 100 against India A, right? But my problem with that is they were he only played because that Netherlands series was cancelled, right? So he wasn't going to play the India A series, but because that series was cancelled, him and a couple of the other guys were drafted into the South Africa A squad at the last minute for the last two matches, but they didn't draft in Rickleton when they could have. So if you're saying now, okay, but Hamza is coming in because he scored 100 against India A, Ryan Rickleton wasn't afforded that opportunity to do that because he wasn't picked in the same way.
Yeah, so there's gonna be that. Those things are gonna be happening all around. There's a lot of people that had an issue with Rassie van der Dussen being selected in the test side in the first place as well, because he wasn't necessarily coming off great current form. He was definitely not the best number 3, number 4 in the country in that season of the first 4-day cricket season. So, like, that's another thing, that there's going to be people that are going to think certain things all the time when it comes to being selected and people being selected. Unfortunately, that's just the case when it comes to these things. You're always going to have someone that you feel is being hard done by. But yeah, let's see what happens tomorrow. I mean, tonight, actually. It is tomorrow, midnight for South Africa. Damn, so crazy. It feels like I'm living in a different country or world at the moment, or a different universe. But guys, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you, Werner. Thank you, Abai. Thank you, Tsepo. Thank you for the callers, Ashwani. Sorry that there was another caller that probably took too long. Sorry, Ungama. You probably tried to come on and we were still busy talking, but you disappeared now. But thank you a lot for trying or attempting to. To all the guys out there, don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell for all future videos. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Cricket Fanatics Magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. The link is on your screen, as well in the description. Go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all updates as well. We do our reports there, our updates, our news updates, press releases, opinion pieces, whatever. Or whatever you think about, you name it, we have it there on cricketfanaticsmag.com. Also, if you want to be part of the family properly, invest into Cricket Fanatics Magazine by joining the Patreon. You instantly will get access to, well, not instantly, but you'll get access to our WhatsApp group. And then you'll also get, as we grow a base and a fan base, you'll get maybe some personal content to you guys specifically as well, that we will be able to create. But we'll have to obviously grow a certain amount of funds before we can do such things. So please join the Patreon account. The links are in the description as well. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Yeah, we'll have to do one tomorrow with another preview show. Take care, everyone.